Hi all, this is a summary of some of our recent research around egg systems and hen welfare and the implications for international strategy. Thanks for joining. My name's Michelle Sinclair and I focus on international animal welfare programs and advocacy. I'm an international program manager. I research ways to make our strategy more effective across borders and I write about that. So I've been affiliated with the Harvard Law School, Brooks McCormick Jr. Animal Law and Policy program for the past few years, and I'm now affiliated with the Stanford Humane and Sustainable Food Lab. I'm sure most of us know by this point, but just to recap and give us some context, I just wanted to briefly touch on what the problem was that we're trying to address. We have about 7 billion egg-laying hens around the world at the moment, and most of them are confined into cages. Those cages are wire-floored, and the space that these hens have is no bigger than an A4 piece of paper. There's really not enough space to stretch wings or really to be a chicken in any way. Male chicks are culled, and hens are culled at approximately 18 months, which is far longer than meat chickens at approximately 30 days. But obviously that's a really long time to exist in such a barren, tight, uncomfortable environment. So while this is the most common way that eggs are produced around the world, we also simultaneously have an increase in global demand for eggs, and it's actually increasing faster than meat and dairy. To summarize the science on the matter, cages are associated with the development of musculoskeletal diseases, severe feather pecking, the absence of a natural behavioural expression, and really an inability to experience positive affective states. It is important to mention though that there's no silver bullet, because cage-free systems can have some major welfare problems too, particularly if they're not managed properly. But when all is weighted, getting hens out of cages is widely believed to be very impactful for hen welfare overall. The key strategic questions I'll touch on today include 1. What do consumers think about hens around the world? 2. What do global consumers think about the egg systems? 3. Are egg producers themselves open to cage-free systems? And 4. What would then be the opportunities? So what do consumers think about hens and their welfare around the world? To understand what consumers think, we set up a huge internationally collaborative effort and hit the streets in between COVID lockdowns to survey the general public across geographically, politically, religiously and culturally diverse regions. These included the US of A, Chile, Brazil, Nigeria, the United Kingdom, Sudan, Thailand, China, the Philippines, Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, Malaysia, and Australia. In total, we surveyed 4,291 members of the public around the world, and we found out some really interesting things. We found out that while levels of agreement did vary across different countries and regions, that generally people did agree that the welfare of chickens was important to them. We also found out that across international participants, over 86% agreed that farm animal welfare mattered to them personally. Over 90% agreed that chickens can feel pain. Over 78% agreed that chickens can also experience emotion. And over 83% agreed that chickens do need space to explore and exercise. So in general, this is really positive. It is important to highlight again though that there are key differences according to region and country. So while most agreed that chickens feel pain, the highest level of agreements came out of Australia, Bangladesh and Chile, with the lowest level of agreement being the United States. Less people, but still surprisingly a majority of people, also agreed that chickens experience emotions. The highest again being Australia, this time along with China and Thailand. The lowest again being the United States, along with Nigeria. Lastly, as mentioned, a majority of people agreed that chickens do need some form of enrichment. So this time we asked about room to explore and exercise. The highest levels of agreement again were Australia and Chile, along with Brazil and the UK. And the lowest once again was being the United States and this time India. So what do global consumers think about cage-based egg systems? When understanding different perspectives in relation to egg production systems, it might be useful to know where in the world most eggs are produced. China produces more eggs than any other country by a huge margin and is home to over 3 billion laying hens. The runners-up, the United States of America with over 390 million, and India with over 314 million, are a long way behind. In all the countries in this study, as it is across the world, most eggs are produced in cages. The only exception to this was Australia and the UK, where, as a result of decades of advocacy-backed reform and consumer choice awareness, the balance has actually shifted. Most eggs in these two countries are produced in cage-free systems. For reference, for this manuscript, we did create a reference table of systems and productions by country because that information wasn't readily available. So feel free to connect with that paper later on if that information is useful for you. In regards to awareness about the type of egg system that's used in their country, approximately 34% of international participants were actually wrong or do not know if most of the eggs are produced in cages in their country. Interestingly, most of these wrong people came from the United Kingdom and Australia, which are the two countries that have majority of cage-free production. So this may speak to some nature of miscommunication or generated cynicism from advocacy communication. So this is something for us to be aware of in the future. Over 91% of international participants stated that they do eat eggs, which is a huge proportion of the human population. Over 72% did state that they would prefer eggs from hens that are not kept in cages. And over 79% said it matters to them that hens producing eggs do not suffer in the process. So how's about egg producers? Are they open to the idea of cage-free systems? Because Asia is host to the major proportion of worldwide egg production, we focus this next study in this particular region. In this study, hosted by Global Food Partners, we spoke to 224 egg producers in the Asian region. 165 of these were cage-based producers. They were in China, Indonesia, Japan, Malaysia, and the Philippines. When we had the ear of these egg producers, one of the questions we asked them was, do you think cage-free systems are an option in your country? Excitingly, approximately 65% answered maybe or yes, which means they are actually open to it. As usual, important differences exist by country, so it is important to understand each region and the needs of different egg producers when working with them to move forward. So if a good portion of egg producers do see in some capacity that cage-free solutions could be feasible in their country, then what are the barriers, what are the solutions, and what are the opportunities to progress? First, we need to understand why cage egg producers are resorting to cage systems in the first instance. When we asked them, the most frequent answer was the ease and convenience of the management of caged-based systems. It was also a perceived reduction of cost. And also land optimization. More hens can fit on a small amount of land if they're in caged banks. We then asked cage producers what some reasons might be to adopt cage-free systems. Unsurprisingly, improved animal welfare was the most frequent response, followed by specialised market access and improvements to their brand. So if there are really great reasons for producers to adopt cage-free systems, and a majority of the egg producers are actually open to it in some way, then what's stopping them? This obviously varied by country, but the most predominant reasons people were giving were that they perceived that cage-free options would reduce their profitability, it would increase their production cost, and they had a lot of concerns in regards to biosecurity and disease management. We know of many solutions to some of these barriers that were presented, but we asked the egg producers what they perceived would be some of these solutions, and they shared 222 responses, which we could then build into themes. The most frequent mentioned fell under the theme of industry development. So that would be an improvement of technology. They spoke a lot about learning how to mitigate biosecurity concerns, and also the availability of technical training in regards to how to run non-caged systems effectively. They also spoke about market development. Producers were concerned that there was not a market for cage-free eggs, that it doesn't exist. And meanwhile, as we saw with our earlier results, consumers are stating clearly that actually this does matter to them as well, and that they would prefer to buy cage-free eggs if they were available, where they're not in a lot of areas. So there is a real opportunity there. We also asked egg producers that should they decide to transition to a cage-free system, do they need more support in the establishment or the maintenance of a cage-free system? Overwhelmingly, they replied yes, which is useful strategic information when we want to support that transition. In general, as we tend to see with all of our previous studies, is that animal welfare does need to be tied to more compelling benefits and practical solutions to different stakeholders. So although the welfare of animals matters to us because it matters to the animals, that's usually not a compelling reason for different stakeholders to change up their routines and behaviours and processes to benefit the animals. So it is an important message that I do like to try and share wherever possible. Well, this is a lot of information, and it's only a snippet of the information that is available in some of these manuscripts. But by way of summary, consumers prefer eggs produced outside of cages, but having said that, their knowledge about egg producing systems is quite low. Egg producers are relatively open to the idea of cage-free systems, but they do need more support to make a transition, particularly in market development and industry development. As always, strategy needs to be tailored carefully by region and an understanding of that region, and that solutions exist. As with most areas that we seek moral progress and development, we just need to spend more time listening. And last but not least, don't lose hope. It might seem like a huge task to transition to a kinder world, and it definitely is, but there are opportunities to facilitate this. These are the three main research manuscripts that we've discussed pieces from today, and in each instance it's entailed a huge collaborative international team of academics and partners. So if you do want to click on any of these, I've included QR codes that'll take you straight to the open access listing. There you can get all the different tables and information and the results, and a big discussion of each of the findings as well. Well, thanks for hanging with me today to discuss some of our strategic findings in regards to egg industries and hen welfare. You can find me at A World of Good or at Stanford, and we've got a QR code here that will lead to any of these publications through my Google Scholar profile. Thanks again, and don't hesitate to reach out.